following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Louis Dangerously, and you're watching the Insider's Edge podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
CW Anderson.
Sean Oliver.
My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge podcast.
Now get on the
Train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Infirri. Great to be with you once again. It's been a hell of a week. I had the chance to talk to Sean Oliver in my previous interview. Great interview. And now the very next night, I get to have another interview with somebody that I am so interested in the career of, because his career isn't like other people. He's done so many different things that this is something I can really sink my teeth into. So without any further ado, I would love the opportunity right now to introduce the one and only, the incomparable. He's been known as Sign Guy Dudley, but I prefer to talk to him and call him Lou E. Dangerously. How are you, my friend?
buddy. You could take Joel Gertner's spot as a ring announcer, or manager, or something.
Well, you know,
we had a hell of an intro, man.
We had Gertner on the show a few weeks back, and I came up with my own Gertner rhyme, which he was quite impressed with. So, he was quite thrilled with it. And when we go off the air, I'll read it to you.
Oh, okay, that's how it is. Well, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
No worries, brother. And the first question, as per usual on the show, Lou, is how did you become a wrestling fan?
Oh, I grew up around it. You know, my grandfather always watched it, and he would, I guess, babysit me when I was 7, 8 years old and whatnot. And I remember very well. I just told the story to somebody, actually. I was sitting in his living room on the floor, and I looked at the TV screen. There's these guys wrestling, obviously, and big red X came across the screen. So I don't know if you've ever saw it back in the early 80s when there was blood or there was something people didn't want to see. They would put a big X across the screen.
Oh,
and block it out and like censor it. So that was like, I was like, what is this you're watching? It was hysterical. So, I mean, from there, I got right into it, and I never stopped watching it.
Awesome.
And that turned out, I think it was WWF that did that. And since I grew up outside Philadelphia, I was always able and exposed to everything wrestling, because we had NWA, we had WWF. Eventually, World Class was on TV there. UWF was on TV there. I mean, we had the gamut. And so initially, my entry was WWF, and then eventually, I really got in the NWA.
Cool, bro. Cool. Yeah, it's. I always love just asking that same question to everyone, because it's like, it's always as soon as they saw it, that was it. They just had to see it.
Yeah.
They were absolutely hooked. It was
usually there's a hook, and for some people it takes a minute. For me, I was right into it. Like, I loved it instantaneously. Yeah. I wanted to know what the red X was, which eventually was blood. So,
and it's interesting. When I interviewed CW, he told me that he didn't even like wrestling. So it's interesting how
he got pulled along, if I remember correctly. It wasn't kind of like in his blood like it was in ours.
Yeah. So you're a fan, obviously, for quite a few years before you end up getting involved in the business. I don't know this story. I haven't watched any previous interview with you because I like to go in fresh. At what point do you manage to find your way to be involved? Did you end up doing any sort of training? Did you actually want to be a wrestler? How was that journey for you?
Yeah, I was like a ringside photographer. And the reason, and that's actually how I started. I lied. Started as a writer and eventually a ringside photographer. And the way that happened was, I was in college and I came home. I think it was like one winter break, and I guess it would have been 93 or 94. And I was watching Sports Channel Philadelphia, and I had not been watching wrestling at the time for quite some time. And I saw Eddie Gilbert and Terry Funk in a Russian chain match.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
beating the shit out of each other in a very like empty-ish kind of building. And so I start watching it because these are two guys I loved. I mean, I loved Eddie Gilbert, obviously Funk. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, this is cool. So I watched the match, and all it was a promo for an Eastern Championship wrestling show that was happening in Philadelphia. So I'm 20, 30 minutes outside the city. I'm like, oh my God, like it's down the street. So all of a sudden, like the wheels start turning again, that maybe wrestling's cool again, because I haven't seen anything like this since, I guess since NWA. So I ended up going to a bunch of original ECW shows like Ultra Clash and Super Summer Sizzler and like all these, like, I don't know, bunch of TV tapings. And then there was a program one night that I found, like a written, I have one around here somewhere, but it was the ECW Action Wire. And I grabbed it, and it said, like, you know, if you're interested in writing for the ECW Action Wire, you know, call this number. And I was a writer in college. I was a music editor for the school paper. So I was used to interviewing bands and writing show reviews, and like a really obviously time in the 90s was all the grunge stuff was happening. So I was like super into that. But I was like, I should try writing about pro wrestling. So I called the number. The number was Gabe Sapolsky, who now, you know, works for WWE, and his story is really well known and whatnot. And him and I hit it off. And so I started writing. I did that for a while. Then I became a photographer because he needed someone to shoot ringside. And being in the grunge era and everything, I was always wearing flannel shirts. I had very long hair. I was obviously still in college, and I looked like a Dudley. And one night I was with Rave, and him and I had become friends, and we were driving to an indie show outside of ECW. And he asked me, he goes, have you ever been trained or anything like that? And I was like, no. And that was the end of that conversation. And then the next time I turned up at the ECW arena, as soon as I got there, somebody said to me, Raven needs to see you right away. Like, oh, you know, like, okay. And usually that means you're in trouble. I was like, what did I do now? So I went up to Raven, and he goes, hey, buddy, congratulations. You're now Sign Guy Dudley. And somebody had gotten, you know, 2 pieces of cardboard for me. And they're like, go find a tie-dye shirt. You know, you're going to sit in the front row tonight, and you're going to hold these signs during the Dudley matches, and you sit there the whole show. Well, I'm like, what about my photos? You know, but and that night, really quickly, I know I'm kind of super long-winded here, but it's a kind of a funny story. Is that night, so it's Dreamer versus Dudley, and Dreamer comes and pulls me out of the crowd, pulls me over, and we had not worked the spot out. There was no discussion and previously about it. And I'm like, what is going on? And he throws me in the ring. And as he's throwing me in the ring, I hear him say, watch the chair. I'm like, watch the what? So he hits me with a chair. This unscripted, no discussion about it. Picks me up, gives me a DDT. And then I get to the back, and Raven's like, I thought you said you weren't trained. And I was like, I'm not. I don't know what the fuck just happened. But that was my entry in the business. And then from there, I start going to ECW wrestling school a couple of times a week, but not to be a wrestler. It was always to be manager, learn how to take bumps. And that was from, you know, Taz helped me, Perry Saturn, Mikey Whipwreck, Bubba was there. Eventually Bubba was there, and they just helped me so I didn't kill myself.
Did Tommy tell you why he did that?
What's that?
Did Tommy tell you why he pulled you in the ring when?
Yeah. Because he had gotten in my face at the end of the match and kind of just was going to shrug me off, and I made fun of him. Like I was just playing the part. I was just like, you know, and whatever. And he's like, and then he also thought I was trained. So so he kind of shot on me, and it was hysterical. But when I got in the back, it was actually a really cool feeling, man. I was like, whoa, I lived that dream out, and I thought that was it. And then it became this big long thing.
Right. Is it true that there was another sign guy in the crowd? Am I getting that correct?
Yeah. There was a fan. His name was Paul. Funny enough. And he would hold signs, and he would make fun of, like, he would have inside knowledge of what was happening on the show. But he got so into it that he thought he was part of the show. And one night, he lived in Philadelphia. And one day he saw like Stevie Richards was at a gym or so. They were both at the same place. And he went to say hi to Stevie, or Stevie went, like something happened. And the guy like gave him, there's like a old school wrestler's handshake. I don't even know if they still do it, to be honest. But he gave him like the wrestler's handshake, and that pissed Stevie off because he's just like, you're not one of the boys.
Yeah.
Because it was always like, I guess the old story goes, if you shook really light, the hand really light, it means you work really.
The
light.
limp hand, yeah.
And I honestly don't think I have no idea. But when I was in WWF or WWE working in the office, I don't remember the limp handshake. So
it's a weird thing. I always found it weird. There's only been a couple times where that's happened in local wrestling. I've shaken someone's hand. They did the limp hand thing. I was like, that was strange. But
yeah, I think some guys used to get pretty pissed at it. So I don't know if it got phased out.
So okay, you find out that you're going to become a Dudley. You're Sign Guy Dudley. The original three guys in the group are Dudley Dudley, Snot Dudley, and Big Dick Dudley. They're the original three. And
Dances with Dudley too. Yeah.
Snot leaves ECW, and I believe he's replaced by Dances with Dudley.
No, I think it goes. Yeah. It's kind of like that happened at the same time. Yep.
Right. Okay. And around this point, obviously, is when you come in along with Chubby Dudley. So out of the gate, I guess I just want to ask you, how do you feel about the pre-Devon and Bubba Ray and Spike era of the Dudley family?
It was so quick before Bubba came though, and that was the thing. I don't even remember. Maybe a couple shows that it was just that group.
Right.
Because they had actually been there during the summer. It was Dudley dances. Oh no, sorry, Dudley, Snot Dudley, and Big Dick Dudley. And Dudley was still there. He was in the match I was just telling you about. And then eventually Bubba came, and the group was and Chubby came, and Dances with Dudley started the night after me. So like there's five of us, I think, at our start. And it gradually peeled off, and then Bubba, it became more of a focal point for Bubba. I don't remember many shows working without Bubba, to be honest with you. Maybe a month's worth of shows, which in that time was maybe 2 or 3 shows.
Okay. Cool.
But you know what, man? I was just happy to be in it, and I would always I would tell my friends or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, it's just 2 or 3 months, and then that's how wrestling goes, and I'll be back at ringside shooting pictures and ready for the program, and but what it exploded into, what's that?
And lo and behold, you end up being there.
Yeah, no, it's I gave it 3 months. I remember it very, very well. That I remember saying, "Oh, it'll be done by October, November, and whatever." And I was wrong.
Cool, bro. Yeah. Look, you're the first guy I've had on the show that was there back then and stayed to the end. I've had Chubby on the show, but he was just there for the eastern part and this run here. And a lot of the other guys came in later on in ECW that I've had on the show. So this is an interesting interview for me because I get to, I guess, talk to somebody that has the whole broad.
I was there for the gamut, man.
Unbelievable, bro. You must have had a moment at some stage during all that time where you're like, I can't believe this is my life.
Oh yeah. And you know what? What's even funnier, I think, is last December of last year, during COVID and everything like that, I've had a lot of time. I was lucky to still be employed and still have work to do and things like that. But you have a lot of time by yourself. At least we did here. And I started, I put my Sign Guy Dudley page back on Facebook. I just did some things that were wrestling oriented because I hadn't been. And I really took a step back, and it takes that long sometimes to realize what you were part of. And I always said in early interviews after ECW was done, and I believe it now more than ever, that I always compared it to what Nirvana did for grunge and music in general. I mean, that was us. That was this group of guys who just kind of hit it, and they hit it really fast. And then it was over for us. It was, we went a little longer than Nirvana, but at the same time, the impact in the respective areas was the same. But I always compare it to that. And it took me almost 20 years removed from the fact to be holy shit, people really do remember. In those moments, I don't know if you know how much yes, I definitely had a what the fuck am I doing parts of my life there. But I didn't look much down the road as to what was the impact going to be, Right. And I think and the impact in pop culture and wrestling and everything like that. I just knew at that moment we were doing something really cool. And then it was over.
Do you know why Dudley left the company?
I think all those guys, I think they just were done. You know, I think Paulie kind of wrapped them up and was taking the gimmick in a different direction.
Right.
You know, when they brought Devon in, I mean, that's just the truth. I don't think it was anything like crazy. It was just, you know, Dudley stopped, Chubby stopped, DW stopped. I think DW quit actually. And because Devon now had come in, he was the heel. He was the guy who's going to set us straight. And then it was just becoming something very, very different than what it was.
Absolutely.
I made it through the 4A, probably because didn't make a lot of money and I was willing to do whatever. But yeah, and then Big Dick was kind of like in and out.
Yeah.
You know? And then and then Joel got brought in and then Spike and because then Spike's there too. So you have a bunch of guys. I think they just focused it down, and I think that was really it.
Right.
You know, Bradley, who was Dudley, is a great guy. I haven't talked to him forever, but when we would see him at shows and whatnot, he was always very nice to me, a very good guy.
Cool, bro. So we've mentioned Bubba Ray. I just want to know what your first impressions were of Bubba when you met him.
Him and I always got along great. You know, he is my first impression was I was at his match I was on an indie show when I just started. I was managing Raven, actually. It was like the third or fourth show I ever worked. It was in Long Island. And Dreamer was there, surprisingly. He wasn't booked on the show, but he was there to watch a guy named Mongo Vile.
All right.
And Mongo Vile was wrestling that night, and Mongo Vile was Bubba Ray Dudley.
All right.
He grabbed me and he said, "Watch this." And this guy, Primo, gave Bubba a choke slam. And Bubba was like up on the ceiling, like how high he got up, because he gets up so good for a big guy. And then that's how Bubba started coming in. And him and I met, and same taste in music, like you and I were talking pre-interview. He was a big metal guy, still is. You know, it was Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Van Halen, all that kind of stuff. So we hit it off that way. He was working at a regular job. I was working at a regular job during the week. So we had a lot in common. I always got along with him the whole run, all the way through. And then still now, I mean, I talked to him, I guess it was 2 weeks ago was the last time we spoke, but we're still boys.
Awesome, bro. Yeah. About that, him going up so well for a choke slam. He was such a big guy, but he looked like the lightest big guy I'd ever seen when he was so quick and, it didn't seem to be a problem. Anytime someone wanted to pick him up, he went up.
He was well known for that.
Yeah.
Well known for that. Yeah.
At Massacre on Queens Boulevard on April 13, 96, Devon Dudley made his debut. You have touched on a little bit, but what did you think about, they're going to take this in a more serious direction? Were you excited about that prospect?
Yeah. Because I knew I would be like the heel manager, like the bad guy, making screwing all the baby faces out of matches when I could and stuff like that. So for me, I thought it'd be cool. More so for those two guys, I thought it was going to be awesome. I had met Devon the week of his debut. He had a tryout, or the week before. I was at the school. They brought him there for a tryout at the wrestling school. And him and Bubba clicked right away. Devon's a great worker. I remember they're like, "What should we call you?" We're all like, "Just call him Devon." And him and I traveled together a lot too. So I was, a great guy, like really great guy, and had a lot of good times together. But I also believe that was a good time for us, because I think the Bubba dancing and the comedy and that had kind of like, it was cool in ECW for a little bit, but it wasn't sustainable. It was running its course. And, in some places you could tell people still wanted to see it, but in the more like Philadelphia's of the world and whatnot, it's kind of like, I've seen it once or twice, like I'm good.
Yeah.
So it was necessary to prolong everything.
Yeah, good call, bro. There are some things happening in wrestling today where I'm like, it's gone on a little long now. Maybe it's time to move on to something else. But no, I don't want to talk about today's wrestling. I just want to focus on this golden era. And this is a big run that the Dudleys have, 8 tag team championships. Barely Legal is obviously a very important evening for everybody. The first pay-per-view. You're the first person I've had the opportunity to ask about Barely Legal. Tell me about that day, how exciting it was, and obviously taking Total Elimination later on in the night was something.
Oh yeah, I took Total Elimination about 20 times the week of the show because we were the Eliminators wanted to work through the match, and they worked through it. We went to Long Island, and literally, I think one day or over the course of 1 or 2 days, we did that match a lot. But that wasn't the original spot, though. The original spot was I was going to pop up and go to hit somebody with a sign. They were going to pull me over, whip me in the ropes, and give me like a double kick.
Okay.
And at the last minute, they changed it, like very last minute. But whatever, I preferred what we ended up doing. That day was crazy. That week was crazy. You know, it was like I was actually, you know, a couple of weeks before that. I don't know if you ever saw the Taz and Sabu Barely Legal poster. I actually shot that. I went back to my photographer days. They asked me to come up and do the shoot for it. And we did that. And they, you know, I remember Mikey and I driving around Long Island, like picking up those posters to bring them down to the arena. Cause remember, everybody in ECW was always doing something else. Most of the guys always had like other things they did within the company, whether to make money or just kind of be around. And so, yeah. And I remember the week they were painting the ECW arena. And I remember going there on a Friday because I lived in Philly. So I'd always go down there, and I always like the arena's not going to be ready because like they were painting the floor. It's very weird. Next day they're doing the ring load in. I went in for that and just kind of hung out. But you know, the week was like, for me personally, like it was fine. It was just like, it was pretty exciting. That day was crazy. You know, Paul gave the big speech that I think is on, it's on one of the,
Beyond the
it's on. Yeah. So he gave that, and everyone we were pretty amped up, man. It was awesome. I can tell you then the next pay-per-view, Hardcore Heaven, I think it wasn't as fun. So, you know, and then we kind of went from there, and you start getting into a routine. But that day, that whole week was awesome. Getting to that moment when you thought you'd never get there was pretty amazing because enough people did enough to hold us down.
Absolutely, bro. It's such a special thing. You guys had all built this thing from the ground up, and that's what I love the most about it. As we're getting towards the tail end of me with the Dudley era of your career questions, just wanted to throw one more out there of what your fondest memories, or if you had a story of something that happened during this run with Bubba and Devon and everyone else.
There's a lot of stories. I just don't know what we could talk about. You know what, man? I think the and I'm going to answer this differently than I have for anybody else. I think looking back on that journey, there's a lot of life lessons that come along with it. So I'm not going to do the funny haha like, oh, I put a snake in Devon's room and he got scared, like I did. But like we had our fun on the road. We always, you know, we got along. But within that, you know, it's funny because I transitioned out of wrestling and kind of went into marketing and things like that. And a lot of things that you learn in the wrestling business, especially in the old school wrestling business, I don't know how it is now, about respect and how you treat people and things like that, transcends into your life. And, you know, being part of something, looking at something from not just an individual standpoint, but a brand standpoint, is also something I learned in ECW. And I just saw an interview with somebody. I was a fan, a collector who collects all this ECW stuff. And he said, well, I never collected all the guy stuff because it was always about the brand. And that was, I think, really important and something that I've carried through in my professional career that I don't think I would have, I probably would have gotten there, but not as quickly as I did, you know, with what I do now, because that's what ECW was. It wasn't about like, you know, you knew you'd get 4 or 5 guys every night that were going to be on the show that were going to deliver. And the rest of it, you had no idea what you were getting. Because, I mean, literally, Paul would be writing these, or Tommy would be writing these lineups like, you know, an hour before the show. But you knew ECW as a brand would deliver. And that's one of my, you know, biggest discoveries and really cool to be part of. You know what I mean? That you're part of like 3 letters that meant so much to everybody. As far as Bubba and Devon, like they've had amazing careers, and you know, I'm happy we're still in touch. You know, they've just done so much, and Bubba now with his podcast and his radio show, like he's awesome. So they've done really good. So no, you know, memories are about the whole thing really for me.
Cool, bro. Another question: was it always in the back of your head during this whole time? Because it's a few years that you were part of the Dudley group. Was it always in the back of your head that you knew that you could be a bigger part of the show instead of just being the silence behind the violence? You could get on the microphone and really show your range. You know, was there a point in time where you thought to yourself, you know, one day it'd be nice to try something else?
You know, I never was honestly proactively thinking that way. I just didn't. I did know that run would end though eventually, because I knew Bubba and Devon, like I knew they were going to go somewhere else, and then I was just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen there. I had done mic work once as Sign Guy Dudley. It was, I think it aired on Hardcore TV. It was a match against Axel and Balls, where I told them they weren't getting a title shot, this whole thing, and that was good because I later found out that was like a tryout to see if I could talk on the microphone. They don't tell you these things. And it was in Philly. I wasn't stressed about it. I remember walking in the arena that day, and Bob was like, "I have good news, I have bad news." And he's like, "The good news is you get to talk on the mic. The bad news is you have to get hit. You know, Balls is going to hit you with a chair afterwards." So, but you know, I never thought of it like that. And then once I did the mic work, I was like, "Cool, you know, that's awesome." And then it kind of went into something different. So, but never. I was just happy to be part of it, man.
Cool, bro. So the first member of the Dudley family I had the chance to interview was Chubby, and my goal is to eventually try and interview every single member that I can of that was part of the Dudley family from start to finish. And when I do the interview with these guys, I wanted to do a little word association, bring up each member's name. If you have a memory or just something to say about them, please share.
What do you say about me?
Geez, I can't remember now because I was drinking in that interview as well. But it was all
just
positive.
kidding. Fine. No, it's fine.
So we'll start off this word association with Dudley.
He's a chef. He was a chef. He was a cook. He became a chef after ECW. That's all I remember about.
That's fine. If you don't know much about these guys, it's totally cool. And
no. I'm dead serious. He was a chef. He was cool. In ECW. I like Jeff a lot. Like I said, I just didn't have a lot of time with him at all because it was so quick.
And I'm sure the next one is very quick too. Snot Dudley.
Oh man, I think I don't even know if I was on a show with him. Right. Honestly, I think we were on like maybe one show. Anthony Michaels, right?
Yeah,
was his name, and I knew he was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which I was really intrigued by because I love Smoky Mountain, and I remember I wanted to talk to him about that, and then he was gone.
Right. Actually, I think my Google search just then says that his name's Michael Deek.
Oh, I think it's a work name.
Oh, maybe. Right. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Next up, Big Dick Dudley.
R.I.P. man. This is a great guy.
Yeah.
Him and I used to get, I got along with everybody, man. There's very few people I didn't get along with. I went to his son's like baptism and confirmation, like a bunch of stuff, man. We had a good relationship, and you know, I think he was what's the best word for him? An intense guy but a really fun guy, and really happy to have a son. So sad what happened.
Yeah. Rest in peace to him. Next up is Chubby Dudley.
He's a fun man. Bay's a good guy, man.
Yeah,
he's come a long way in life just with what he does on his show that he I was on it. But he does this podcast and he's kept it going. A Totally Driven Radio, and
that's it.
He's kept it going for so long. But he's a fun man. You know, he's he live in Nashville now, and I was doing like a live chat on Facebook maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. I brought my 12-year-old daughter with me because she just wanted to like experience this craziness. And he popped on. That was the first time I talked to him in probably like 10 or 11 years.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm happy with, you know, I sad obviously to see him go back in the day, but I get it. But he's such a passion for music and stuff like that. So to see what he's able to do to kind of keep that passion alive in projects is awesome.
Absolutely. Dances with Dudley.
I wish he didn't quit. I mean, that was the first thing. I mean, he got really upset about some stuff, and I was one of the reasons he got upset, by the way. But what's his name? Al, right? Alfonso, something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it was a nice guy. I have no idea what he did after the fact. I think he did tried to do another Dudley thing with another Dudley. That was just out of nowhere. So, I hope he's well.
I think his name's Adolfo.
Adolfo. I was going to say Alfonso, but I know that wasn't right. Adolfo, yeah. No, yeah,
it was pretty close.
There could have been something fun there, but who knows?
You've mentioned them both a little bit so far, Bubba Ray and Devon.
I think both. For Bubba, I'm going to go with passionate and just a very, I think, also misunderstood. And it's funny, when I did the Welcome to Dudleyville, that was the DVD for WWE. I'm not giving it a plug, even though it is cool. But I did a very long interview with them about the Dudleys, and they got into Bubba, but they edited one of my favorite parts out, which was, I believe that his passion sometimes was misunderstood for being a difficult person.
Right.
And I never, while I see why people may think that, I think in his heart, he did not mean, I'm not speaking for him. I don't think it was always what the intent people thought, and I know I've heard a million stories and I've experienced lots of different things, but I always felt it was with the passion to put the best product in front of fans. And sometimes you need that, and sometimes people take that as like, oh, he's this, he's that, he's like, whatever. But I never really had a bad experience with him, and I think he's a very passionate and misunderstood guy sometimes. And Devon, because I presume you're going to go to Devon next, this guy was just the happiest guy in ECW and in WWE. That was his dream, and to literally, him and I used to travel together. We used to ride together. I used to pick him up at his apartment with his wife and his 2 kids, and we spent lots of time together. Now I think he has 4 or 5 kids, and he's just a good guy, and I was happy to see him have a really high degree of success. And he always wanted to work for WWF or WWE. And when he finally got there, I was like, yeah, man, that's awesome. So
absolutely. Yeah. The cream rises to the top.
I agree.
Next up, technically a member of the Dudley family. Some call him Studley Dudley, Joel Gerton.
Joel is I have said this many times and I'll say it again. I am surprised he never went further in the wrestling business after ECW, because he's so talented. And sorry, my allergies are acting up.
That's right.
Super talented guy, super witty, can do things on the spot that no one can do and think and I just don't get it. There's a few guys in the wrestling business that I've been around that I don't get why they went further and made significant money. Joel would be one of those guys because, he just had that it factor for a manager, announcer, person. I don't know how his business dealings were. I don't know anything about that or why things didn't happen. I just thought he would have gone further. And I think, there's a legacy there for him for sure within ECW. I thought there would be more.
I agree totally. I never understood why he wasn't brought into the WWF to do something, because he was so talented. And he was very young when he was in ECW. So he's still a young man now. And
I think he was 2 or 3 years younger than me. We were both pretty young there. I mean, I was 22 or 23.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But yeah, no, that always surprised me. And him and I'll keep in touch a little bit online and whatnot, but I never got that. He was one I would have banked on.
I spoke to him a little bit earlier and he said to send his regards to you.
Tell him to tell you the Denny's story.
Denny's story. I'll write that down.
There's a lot of stories, or the lampshade story.
Denny, I'll type this in. Denny's lampshade. Okay.
Just tell lampshade story.
Okay. And the last one on this word association, Little Spike Dudley.
Oh, driven, man. Toughest guy in the locker room. He was toughest guy in the locker room. He just got he got the shit beat out of him all the time. and he was part of the ring crew. So, I mean, he was there the earliest of anybody. He was getting his ass kicked during the show. He was helping tear the building down and driving to the next town. It was, I had a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, man.
Have.
Speaking of him getting the shit beaten out of him, seeing him against Mike Awesome headlining a pay-per-view. Good God, some of those table spots. When did you first find out that Bubba and Devon had offers from the WWF, and how did that make you feel about your spot with ECW?
We were in Chicago. I don't know. I think it was for a TV. I don't think it was a pay-per-view. It wasn't Chicago. It was Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Harrow Arena, which is torn down now. They had told me, they had kept me in the loop that there was things were happening, and they were giving me like a heads up. And I don't know if this was just negotiated or whatever, but I remember one night we were at the hotel, and Bubba and Devon, they're like, we should all talk. And Bubba's like, we're really close. Like, we're going to sign. And and Paulie's basically telling us there's nothing for you. Now, that's what Paulie was telling them,
Right.
That never was told to me. And then what I thought was, what I had started to do was learn the business side of it from the promoting side and the marketing side of how you do those shows, because Bubba was doing that. So I was kind of like asking him a million questions about how building deals work and how pricing works and marketing and whatnot. So when I heard that, I kind of went to Tommy, because he was my guy, and just said, first of all, he was like my best friend there, but also like I could trust him. And I said, listen, I know these guys, if they leave, they're probably nothing for me. But I would like to remain with the company on the business side. And someone's going to need to be a promoter. Someone's going to need to do these things. And they had like a team of guys. But Bubba did it differently, and I wanted to do what he was doing. So I knew that would kind of happen, but I didn't find that out, I think, until like the last night they were there. We were in Queens, New York, and we did the farewell, and I was kind of in the back, and I went to Paul. I was like, what am I doing? He's like, I want you to fly, keep coming to every show. We're going to keep flying you in. We're going to keep paying you, just to be the promotions guy. And so that started. I think I took 1 week off because I had like a friend's wedding or something. And then, and sure enough, that's what happened. So I did that for 2 or 3 months. I did it with Jack Victory. I think that was by choice too, because I remember they had asked me like, you should probably have somebody with you. And I think that's how Jack got in the picture. Him and I had a blast doing that, but that's how that started. So I knew I was done. Let's put it that way. At least I thought it was.
All right. So you didn't have any hopes that you might be brought in as part of the package to the WWF?
Oh, no. I mean, so Devon had called me during all this and said that they were going to reach out to me. He's like, yeah, I remember the phone call. He's like, congratulations, Sign Guy Dudley, new member of World Wrestling Entertainment. Our World Wrestling Federation. He's like, Jim Ross is going to call you. They want you part of this. I just didn't believe it. I was just like, no one's talked to me. And like, I don't even know if I want to do that, to be honest, which sounds bananas. But at that point in my life, literally, I was working for a radio station in Philadelphia, and I had an opportunity there to go full time and just like run their whole promotions marketing department. I knew like this promotion thing in ECW was around, and I didn't know if I wanted to go to some place where it was like, I don't know, there were no male managers. There was nothing like there. And it eventually never happened anyway, so I didn't have to worry about it. But
yeah.
But there was a minute there that I was like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, no, I never heard another word.
Fair enough, bro. Did you have any ideas on what you wanted to do next? Was there anything on the table other than the Louis Dangerously character?
I later found out that there was a idea to put me with Simon Diamond and his cast of misfits. And Dreamer told me about it in like Baton Rouge. Like we were at a show, and Louis Dangerously was happening, but I just wasn't doing the house shows, but I was promoting the house shows, so I was still on the road. And he's like, yeah, I wanted you to lose like 30 pounds, and you were going to be like, we're going to slick your hair back, and you're going to be part of Simon Diamond's crew. And I was like, it sounds horrible, but not because of Simon, but just like, I don't know. Because compared to Louis Dangerously, I was like, yeah, it's much better on that side. Even though that, you still have to be worked in the storylines, and Simon had a continual one, but still I was looking at it from like, it's time to have some fun now. So
Yeah.
That was the only other thing I ever heard.
Right. So how did Lou E come about? It's a fantastic play on Paulie. You did a very good job, very convincing. Did you say, hey, I want to do a Paulie impression here? Or did someone say, I want you to do a Paulie impression? How did that come about?
It literally happened because of my wearing my hair in a ponytail, always wearing a hat. There was guys who would come up to me in the locker room when they couldn't see my face because I had the same build as Paul and think I was Paul.
Okay.
I remember Axl Rotten would do it all the time. Johnny Grunge, rest in peace to both of them, would do it all the time. They'd be like, hey, Paul. And they'd be like, fuck, it's not you. Or it's not Paul, And it started like happening like a lot. And then I was either traveling with Tommy, because again, he was part of this traveling crew as well, where we had so much fun, talked business. I was like, yeah, Louis Dangerously, man. Like just like a joke. And this was when I was still Sign Guy Dudley.
Right.
And that just went away. And Tommy kept it in the back of his head. And he did. When I started promoting and signing the Dudleys were gone, he's like, I want to do the Louis Dangerously thing. I just need shouldn't do anything for like 2 or 3 months. So you can be fresh out of Sign Guy and transition into that. And sure enough, that happened. And it was the first time ever was at the ECW arena. The hardest place. The opening of the show.
So how did it come about that you would manage beautiful Billy Wiles and CW Anderson?
I had asked to work with CW and Billy. Initially, CW and I had talked about it because I was doing like these pop-up kind of like promos where I was just doing like funny shit. And then and I loved CW and I had gotten along personally really well. I loved the way he worked. I loved his passion. And I just thought like I could help him as a guy who could speak, and he can talk, but I could get him heat in a different way, like than he could. No offense to him, but he would agree with me. And I went to Tommy about it, and Tommy had already been thinking about it. So it kind of just started happening as the new Dangerous Alliance. And then we had, I had those two guys, and eventually Elektra, and Eric Watts was part of it for like 3 shows or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's literally how it came about. Was in ECW, you had the platforms to make suggestions about your character, and most of the time it was pretty well received, unless it was complete like shit. In this situation, it was really well received.
Cool, bro.
It was supposed to go further too, but politics.
I understand, bro. And I did speak to CW a little while ago. He said to tell you that he said hello, and he said to ask him about the Lou, here's your spot from me in a match.
We just had a Zoom call last week for another podcast where all of us were on, and I brought the story up willingly. So I had a good reputation with the boys. I never missed my spot. Like I never, like if it was pulling the leg, if it was stopping a 3 count, if it was throwing powder, like I was taught from, being with the Dudleys, like you get one chance in the match to make your impact, and you got to be on time. So I never missed a spot, like ever. And one night, I forget where we were. I missed a spot. I was supposed to pull like Noah's leg, and I used to like on house shows, I'd fuck around a lot of Louis games, like just fuck around with fans and like kind of just have a good time, but always keeping my eye on what was happening in the ring. And I don't know what happened that night, but I zoned out, and Nova hit the ropes. I was supposed to pull his leg, and they were going to do like a super kick or something. And I missed everything. And Nova looked at me, he's like, what the fuck? So the next night, same match, same spot. This time, like, I'm not fucking off too much. They start getting the spot, and CW looks down to me, and as loud as he can be, goes, Lou, here's your spot. And that rib lasted for like 2 or 3 weeks. So, yeah. But I always, because we rib each other like relentlessly in good ways, but I never let them get anything on me, and they got that one on me.
Awesome, bro. Love that. Where did you get those giant cell phones from at that stage in, the year 2000? That must have been hard to find.
Cordless phones.
And whose head were you happiest to hit that thing on?
Who? What was the last part?
Whose head were you happiest to hit that phone on?
I got them at Radio Shack and any place that sold cordless phones. because that's all they were. They're actually cordless phones.
Right.
I did have like a really old 80s cell phone that was like a brick that I have still, that if I hit somebody with, they would have died. Like it was very, very brickish. Who do I like hitting?
I mean, most of the time you end up hitting your own.
Yeah, well, Billy and I hit Danny Doring once. That was fun. I hit Billy Corgan and gave him a concussion. So that was
wow.
Yeah, they never really showed me, and I never, and maybe that's my own fault, never really figured out until the end how you really could protect somebody by hitting them with the phone. And so I would just hit you with the phone.
All right.
And Billy, I hit with the phone, and if you watch, it was from Hammerstein Ballroom, and I knocked him out. I didn't need to.
What a fantastic distinction to have.
Yes,
knocked out the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins.
He knocked me out too, though. So.
Who would have thought that would have happened? That's fantastic. So Elektra joins the group. I just wanted to ask you quickly, any memories of what she was like to work with and what she was like behind the scenes?
I love working with her. It was okay. Here's the thing with Elektra. I think she brought a lot of presence to us, but she didn't remember her spots. So we're talking about spots. One of the ongoing jokes is after I blew my one thing, which was whatever, I used to, in the match, have to remember my spot and her spot, because a lot of her spots were breaking up the pin or the fall on the ref. And like, you can't be late for that because it looks like shit. So at some point I was remembering her stuff. But Donna and I always got along fine. It was just, I don't have any bad memories of her. I just remember that one story.
Right.
Kind of looking out for her, I guess. But
yeah,
I think she lives in Orlando now and works at Disneyland, from what Billy told me.
Yeah, that's what he told me too, that she was actually his waitress when he was gone for lunch or something like that. So
that's so funny.
So how do you think things were moving along for the group in 2000? Because I thought the team was really getting great heat and working together well. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think I am the biggest New Dangerous Alliance fan that there is.
I thought it was going well. We got Eric Watts. I thought that was interesting. But somebody didn't like it. So it kind of like, it was supposed to transform where Simon and Swinger were supposed to also be part of it.
Right. It's going to be a bigger group.
And Don was going to be part of it. And there's some political things that happened, and that never happened. And then it kind of just got disbanded. And, but I thought it had a lot more to it. I believe Paul was also kind of like over the fact that, like, we were trying to be serious at the same time. I'm trying to like make fun of him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, it just wasn't in his mind, from what I understand, it wasn't like jiving that way, where it was like you have a parody of him that's also trying to be like killer heels, and it's
right.
not only eventually that hurts CW and Bill, because you have this me as a goofball, and then it's like these guys are trying to be like killer heels. So I could see why it didn't go further. It could have been fixed, but it didn't. So it's okay though.
Yeah, fair enough. Billy Wiles leaves the group. In my interview with him, he said he was disappointed that it didn't lead to a feud with CW, which I thought was strange, because you would have thought that there would have been at least a match on Hardcore TV or something like that to at least blow that up. What did you think about having him leave the group at this point? Because I kind of felt like, as a fan, it didn't make any sense to split that team up at that point.
Yeah, no, we didn't get much of it. It wasn't like, when we went over this the other week, we were doing another interview, all of us, and I said it wasn't like there was this moment where somebody came to us and said, we're splitting all you guys up. It just kind of like happened. Like it was very strange. It's almost like nobody wanted to have that conversation with us. I had missed a show in Chicago because I was at my best friend's wedding, and that was a TV taping, and so they had done kind of the split there. Whereas like CW went out by himself, Billy went out by himself, and like nothing was intermingled. And then from there, like I don't remember many more matches after that together. And then CW went off his way, and I kind of they put me with Chris Chetty, and I started doing like the Danger Zone stuff. I was doing it just was over. It was very, very strange. And maybe that's why they never had a match, because it was never like this big angle that happened. It was crazy.
I think
stop.
Yeah, Billy just thought it ended up him being beaten down and kicked out was an afterthought. And but he also has said to me to tell you that he said, I just loved him as my manager. He was my all-time favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. We had a lot of good times together, man. I like how everybody's passing messages through too.
This is one of the first times I was actually able to. It just somehow happened. I wasn't even searching for it. I just told both of them and Joel that I was interviewing you, and they said, "Oh, pass this on."
That's cool.
So, what did you notice about ECW's struggles with TNN and all that during this time? Because I've really enjoyed the show and I'm still kind of watching and going through it now all these years later. But what did you notice about the struggles that the company were having with them?
The biggest thing was they didn't promote the show. You know, they had the TV show. They didn't promote the TV show. They would promote the TV show either at this, like the lead-in show or during the show. It was one of the most insane asinine things I'd ever seen. And that was, that TV was supposed to be our anchor for live events and pay-per-view and everything, but no one knew it was on TV.
Yeah.
So as a promoter at that time, now I am doing promoting, and you're promoting shows that aren't selling any differently than they had before. And now you have national TV. It didn't work. I know Paulie knew a lot more about the censorship factors. I knew nothing about that. I just know that there was like a stringent, whatever the word is, amount of rules that were put into play. I just know they never promoted us. And it was so funny because hardcore TV was also still running. And I think people got more out of that than they were getting off of TNN.
Yeah, it is weird seeing the difference between the two shows. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we hardcore TV was definitely that was it. I thought the TNN shows were fine. I can't say I remember too many of them, to be honest. I remember a lot of hardcore TVs because just the way it was edited and cut. But I was only aware of the fact that they weren't doing anything to help us.
Yeah, and when we interviewed Joel, he said that when they would finally run an advertisement spot, it was during the show, which makes no sense. See, people who are watching already watching,
Yeah. No, it was brutal. They would promote us during the show. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen.
That's so dumb. Like it was on purpose. Okay, now the next one is a question that we ask everyone that was in the company at this time. Heatwave 2000. We like to get everyone's perspective so we can do a big video with 20 people talking about it. Heatwave 2000. What's your memories of the big fight that took place with the XPW people?
Oh yeah. My memories were the Roadkill saved me. I remember that pretty well, which I'll tell that story. But it's interesting to look back on that now. And know how united and unified your locker room was. That there was no second guessing on what was going to happen after that happened during our show. It wasn't like when there was a bunch of guys sitting around the locker room going, "Oh, what should we go do?" It was like the second shit went down and they got kicked out, it was on. And it showed, I think, one, we weren't going to let anybody do that to us at our own show. And two, the boys were that goes back to my comments earlier about how strong the brand was. They weren't protecting, Roadkill wasn't protecting Roadkill. Roadkill was protecting ECW, and it was quite a lot. And I remember, for me specifically, I was out there and I heard some chaos behind me, literally right behind me. And as I had turned around, there was a guy there with something that he was going to hit me on the back of the head with, or hit me with, and Roadkill had stopped him at the last second.
Holy shit.
And was just beat the shit out of him. But yeah, that's scary though. It was just but we all had each other's backs. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was literally just walking out there at that time, and then that happened. It was pretty crazy, man. It was pretty surreal too, because I remember after the show, a bunch of us went to the Rainbow to eat, and Bubba called me. He's like, "What in the fuck?" Because he's at WWEF now, and he's like,
"All right."
down there. It spread like wildfire, but yeah, I mean, that was it's funny because I get what they were trying to do. And there's part of me that always wonders if Paul or anybody knew that was going to happen because of their seat locations, like literally front row. Or if the story goes that somebody had bought them, switched them over to them, gave them the tickets, and I don't know. I think there's more to it. There definitely wasn't more to the fight, though. The fight was very real. That was nuts.
And I heard it was quite one-sided. We've had New Jack on the show. We've had Chili Willy. We've had Big Sal. We've had like so many different points of view. So your point of view was very appreciated. Thank you very much.
No problem.
So the 22nd of July, 2000, Billy Corgan took to the ring at a match in Peoria, Illinois, to play the national anthem, but you interrupted him. And it ended with him hitting a guitar over your head. Is that when he concussed you?
No, he concussed me the second time in New York City.
Well, that must be fun, man. You know, you've mentioned it a little bit earlier, but you know, being able to be out there with Billy Corgan of all people was that's fun stuff.
Yeah. No, look, he had came to one of the, maybe it was Heatwave or something, in a pay-per-view in Chicago after the Dudleys had left. And I was there as a promoter or whatever. And I was backstage with a group of guys, and Tommy or somebody came back to us and they said, hey, the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins is in the back if anybody wants to say hi to him. I'm like a huge music fan, and I had just seen the Pumpkins in concert a couple of years prior to that. So I, of course, went out there. And before I could go up to him and introduce myself, he stopped and looked at me. He goes, you're Sign Guy Dudley. What's going to happen with you now? I'm like, what the fuck? Like that kind of, universe was very strange that he knew who I was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was pretty, it was pretty interesting. But him and I became very good friends. And I think over the course of the next, 6-7 months, as the Louis Dangerously character was going, and he lived in Chicago. We were doing a show in Peoria. I asked Tommy, I said, if I pitch Billy on an idea and he says yes, would we do something? And Tommy's like, yeah, go ask him. So I got a hold of Billy and I said, we're doing this show. Like, you have any interest on being on camera, and maybe you and I can do something together? And he literally was like, as long as it's not cheesy, yeah. Because that was the time WCW was using a lot of celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I told him, I said, I guarantee it won't be cheesy. In fact, like, we could probably just figure it out ourselves, what we're going to do. So Billy came down that day, and Tommy, I don't know whose idea it was for him to play the national anthem, but play a song about ECW, they called it, or something insane. But it was somebody's. That was not my idea. My idea was to get him there and we'd figure it out. And then, I cut him off. He hit me with the guitar. The rest is history. I later come to find out that a lot of guys that's no names, but we're trying to get him to do stuff with them because they're like, well, why is he doing it with Lou? He should do it with the biggest stars on the show and get us more over. So it was really weird, like, to hear that after the fact, but whatever. We had a good run with that. And then we did it, a couple more times in New York City one night.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, let's give Lou a little something,
Oh, well, you know what? It's funny because you hear it after the fact, and ECW was never about that. But yeah, apparently that ruffled some feathers. I really didn't give a shit because as a promoter, I was also saying what's best for the brand here. Now, getting Billy there was best for the brand. And the rub for me was like, yeah, I did bring that. And like, I should, I got to do the angle, but it actually made sense too in the grand scheme of what I was doing at the time. So whatever. It shit doesn't offend me. It just kind of was like, whatever.
At this stage, I want to bring up this because I noticed that you've had 2 matches in your time in ECW. But please correct me if I'm wrong. 22nd of the 9th, 2000 in Salem, Virginia, a guy by the name of Blacksmith teams with Jack Victory to take on the New Dangerous Alliance in a 3 versus 2 handicap match. And also the 11th of the 8th, 2000 in Fort Lauderdale, Lou E and Cyrus take on Scotty Anton and Steve Corino.
No. Those were the matches where it was like, let's have a match. I'm gonna fuck you up, and then I slide out of the ring and someone else comes in.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, no, Louis never had a wrestling. When you said that, I was like, that never happened.
Okay.
But I do know what you're talking about in those situations where I don't remember who Blacksmith was, by the way, but I remember Salem. Yeah, that was for the old gimmick where I'd be like, I'm gonna fight everybody, and
then you don't.
I'm gonna fight you two guys right now, and they come at us, and then I just slide out of the ring, and someone else comes in.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm glad that you were able to clear that up for me. So now I know that you never.
I was going to
have a match.
Really fast though. I was going to have a match. Fonzie and I were going to have a match at one
Wow, really?
After he had done the thing with Beulah, Rob, Sabu, and the Dudleys were having like quite a few matches together, and nothing that doesn't have anything to do with what he was doing with Beulah, but because he had something really good with Beulah, maybe it could be replicated. So he had talked to me about it and said, "Would you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, it's just it's just like kill each other for a couple minutes, but it never happened.
Yeah, and shout out to that match with Beulah and.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
That was amazing for those two to have that kind of a match.
Well, that was the theory too. Talking to Tommy after the fact was that they didn't know if that could ever be topped. Like I don't know what Fonzie and I would have done other than like he could have put me through a table, wouldn't have as much impact as that match. Since Beulah they were just awesome in that. So
absolutely. Fast forwarding now, January 13th, 2001, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Were you there at the final show? How were you feeling about everything at that stage? I know things were still up in the air. You weren't really, some people weren't really sure what was going on, but tell me what your memory is of that day.
No, I knew it was done. I mean, I was the promoter. I knew we had no more shows on the books. I think there was a lot of theories that we would get more and money needed to come in and all these, different ways of looking at it. But I kind of knew it was over. That show in particular, that weekend, the night before was in Poplar Bluff. And the night you just said Pine Bluff. We also had some people on the shows that were just like local talent that had gotten booked because we all the boys showed up at this point.
Yeah.
So we're doing this big like ECW send off in the center of the ring, and there's a bunch of guys who had never been part of our company, and all of it felt really strange. So I actually didn't partake, but I think, I mean, look, it's surreal. I think a lot of guys knew they had jobs after the fact, and we're gonna have something work out. I think there was a lot of blind faith that ECW would continue. And until Paul debuted on Monday Night Raw, I guess it was a month later or 2 months later, whenever it was, we had hoped that we would be back until that moment happened. And then we knew. But I kind of knew anyway. I just didn't see it. You just don't stop a brand, get off TV, and take a couple months off and hope everything works out.
Fucking hell.
A weird night for sure.
It's just like a weird couple of months. ECW, then like 2 months later, WCW. Who would have thought that would have happened one after another? So you find out ECW's gone. How did you cope knowing ECW was gone? Your creative outlet that you had now is no longer there. What was your first thing that you did? What was your plan for the future? Obviously, were you still working with the radio station?
No, I stopped working there because I was full-time with ECW because I was doing the promoting work. No, I remember I got home that weekend. It literally reminded me of the day I graduated from college, which was like, what am I going to do now? And it was that moment again, this time like 6-7 years later. And I just took a hard look at life, and I took 6 months and did nothing. I did indie shows like crazy because all the ECW talent we were getting booked, like we were making more money there. But I also just wasn't up for it anymore. And that's just the truth. I mean, I think it was like when you get beaten and you have to do all this travel and you have to do all these things. For me, I was believing in the greater cause of ECW and my lifestyle as a promoter and doing those types of things. And with those people. And that's the thing. Like, there's guys who definitely tried to rip off and do like the extreme shows and all this kind of stuff, but it may be the same kind of guys in the locker room for the most part, but it's not those, your people. It's not Tommy and the guys you're tight with and stuff like that. So, I took some time off, and I realized like I'm just going to try to push this marketing thing a little further. And that's when I start, when, I cut my hair, grew up a little bit, and went back into the entertainment industry, obviously in a different mindset completely, but the hell of a lot of experience I never thought I'd have.
Absolutely, bro. That's cool. So we are getting to kind of the tail end here. There are a few more questions. One thing that I want to ask, there was a company called MECW. Were you involved in that company, and what happened with it? You weren't involved?
Not that I remember. Do you?
I don't know.
Which company?
A main event championship wrestling or something like that? No.
Where were they based out of?
Couldn't tell you right now. I don't know. Maybe that question wasn't even supposed
I'm aware of who the company. I've heard of it. Maybe I work like in a show for them.
I think it was a company that had some ex WCW and ECW guys, and it ran a few shows.
Oh, yeah. That was
by Jason Daniel.
I'm looking for it right now. I did one show with them. And
right. Okay.
Company. Yeah, that was the company that. So they did one show at the ECW arena. If I'm remembering this is the right company, and their whole thing was also one to use the and I could be wrong here, but I think this is it. Todd Gordon was involved, the original founder of ECW. They had 70% ECW guys, and they brought in some other names. And I think they had a money guy who I forget who he was. I don't know how many shows it did. I just know I did one. And it was at the ECW arena where I went to the ring with a guy named The Smoke, who was a ripoff of The Rock. And I did a heel promo, and got a lot of heat. So I remember it was really cool. Because that was the first time I had performed in a while. And then New Jack came out, and hit him with a guitar, and I left and got paid. But that was the last thing. I don't remember that company other than that one. You really jogged a memory there.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that we were able to figure that out in the end there.
Yeah.
June 12, 2005, ECW One Night Stand. Hardcore Homecoming was 2 nights prior. Were you ever contacted to be a part of One Night Stand? Please tell me about what you heard when this was coming about.
Yeah, so I was, and unfortunately I could not do it because at that point I had so I had started working in the entertainment business, and I was working for Comcast Spectacor. I was promoting shows at one of their arena in Philadelphia, working with the sports team. They had transferred me to Colorado to open a building there, like grand opening, your show, marketing guy. And then Tommy had called me about that. And he said, listen, we're doing this, thing. Bubba wants you to be part of it. Because Bubba, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, either owns the Dudley name or has something to do with how the Dudley name is used and who's like part of it per se. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. But anyway, he said, Bubba's okay with it. We want you to come in with the Sign Guy Dudley again. And it's going to be this, and this. And going to pay you, and you're going to get paid, and like all this stuff. But I literally could not do it because it was either the day before or the day of something that we were doing at the arena, the actual, like not the ECW or the arena I was managing in Colorado. Right. And I remember talking to my boss at the time, and it was just like, well, I mean, you can do it, but like there were so many deadlines and places I had to be the next day for we were like hosting some shit. I won't get into all the details, but it was my job and what I had to do. So I couldn't do that show. Hardcore Homecoming, the first time, I don't believe I heard from anybody. And frankly, I wasn't interested in those anyway. And I know, saying that when you're not part of it anyway is easy, but I really wasn't. It was just kind of like, I kind of had done that already with all these indie shows after the fact. And then I was asked to do the TNA one, but I had just left WWE to work for Cirque, and WWE had me on a retainer. So I couldn't break that because I wanted the retainer money. And also,
fair enough.
Also to be really frank, I didn't want to burn that bridge. And I don't know if anybody would even cared. I never even asked. But WWE is if I'm taking Sign Guy Dudley and Louis Dangerously out of it as an entertainment company, is not somebody I want to burn a bridge with by doing something with TNA. Again, if they even cared. So.
Yeah, fair enough, bro. Cool. That eliminates my next question about the other reunion shows.
I
Where-
haven't done one.
Where did you first get your opportunity to work behind the scenes in WWE?
I was working, so it was 2006. I was working for Comcast, and they had Tommy initially called me and had told me about what they were going to do with ECW, that they were going to restart the brand, and then Shane was in charge of it at the time, McMahon, and he said, Shane wants you to be part of it. They actually had an on-camera role for me too, which is funny. We never did it, and that's fine. But they wanted me to come in. They wanted me to route the shows, so all the touring to the old places that we used to go to.
Yep.
All marketing, really just do the same thing. And at that point in my career, I thought it'd be cool to work for WWE, so I did it. But that's kind of how it started. And what I didn't know was that I'd also be doing like agent work and doing payouts and like all kinds of different things behind the scenes, which I had done in ECW. I just didn't know that was part of this job. So it's cool because eventually then you're working Raw and SmackDown. You're like doing different things with different people. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man.
But then the brand went away, and then my job was going to go away. But they found something else for me to do in the marketing department, so I ended up working there, almost 4 years.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I mean, about that whole relaunch of ECW, this was the final strike. There were 3 strikes, and I was done with watching WWE. The Invasion Angle, the NWO, and when I was so excited because I was like, oh man, I really hope that they do all the same towns that they used to do, and they keep it in that small atmosphere, and they have that same vibe. And then, obviously within a few weeks, it was like, okay, it's just going to be like a really tame version. That's really disappointing. What's your perspective on that there? Because, I know CW was very disappointed because Tommy had said to him, we're going to take off where we were at ECW. We're going to continue our feud now, pretend that nothing ever happened.
The problem is you had 5 years between. But, look,
I heard Vince saw the ECW arena show you guys didn't like how it looked, and that was God.
That's true. It was there's one positive that came out of that, and I felt that, and I'll get into that positive in a second. It was not what it was supposed to be. It never really was. If you saw the first TV taping we did in Trenton, it was not good. The arena show that we did was okay. The one night stands that we did I thought were really well done. But it just never prospered into what it was supposed to be, which was, there were so many different theories or ideas. One was to have that brand actually hubbed out of Philadelphia and to have space, office space at the old ECW arena, and for that to be like a training area, I guess like they do with NXT now. Like there was so much of that kind of stuff that they were looking at. Shane McMahon was supposed to be in charge of the whole thing. That didn't happen. So it kind of like, it didn't surprise me. At that point, it was like, I think a lot of the boys went back to like just how it was. But you have to realize we're owned and run by a publicly traded company that's always going to do its best for the business. And they did, and I don't blame them. Looking back on it, I think CM Punk had for me, that was his show. And that was a place for him to not prove himself, because he already proved himself, but to show his presence on TV and what he can do. So to me, that was a really good platform for him, which I thought was awesome. That's the only good takeaway I have from ECW. And then we got to hang out for like a couple more weeks together, but WWE has a lot of rules that prevent you. I can't travel with the boys because I'm office and shit like that.
Oh, God.
But now you're alienating people because you just don't want to tell them that. But yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it does suck how it all went down in the end. I remember watching December to Dismember. I actually, me and my friends had actually bought the pay-per-view and sitting there excited to see what was going to happen. And oh God, it was as it was going on, we were all like, something's not right here. This isn't, this is really bad. What is going on?
Everything was wrong with that day. That was a really weird day too. That was the day Paul left, and I don't know.
Yeah,
strange.
what a nightmare, bro. Anyway, and another positive was Bob Holly versus RVD. That was a great match. That
True.
that was a fantastic match. And when we interviewed Bob, he said that was his favorite match of his career. And
Really?
yeah, because he had
That's
said
awesome.
for so long they hadn't done anything with me, and I finally got to do this thing with the ECW brand, and I got to have this match with Rob, and I finally got to do something that meant something, and everyone was watching it going, oh yeah, like Bob Holly's actually really good. Like I completely
Yes.
forgot
Yeah.
because they just weren't doing anything with him. Anyway, that was a quick sidebar there that I thought
That's
was
crazy. But yeah, no, you're right about that.
So again, we're very close to the end, Lou. I'm sorry I've taken up a bit of your time here today, but
You're fine.
what was a usual day in your life like when you were director of live events and promotions and booking in June 2006 before becoming director of promotions and event marketing in May 2007? Tell me of a typical day in the life of the WWE office.
For me, it was really so. What was the first date you gave me?
June 2006.
So when I first started, yeah, it went. For there, it was I was on the road with ECW. So not only I was booking the towns, so that's making a million phone calls to try to get routing done. You're putting the tour together. It's a lot of work, grinding phones. And what I mean by that is like you would just have a map and you'd be like, all right, SmackDown's here, Raw's here. I have to get the ECW crew to SmackDown because that's where they were doing TV. But I have to stay 300 miles outside of all the other SmackDown towns that are also going there. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You look at where SmackDown's going, and then I was trying to get ECW there too from a different angle, but not interfering where Raw was. So it was a very, very, very hard. And we were able to call on a bunch of the older buildings that we had done in the past, which was also kind of strange because we owed them money from the original ECW. And so they would ask me for that, and I was like, "Yeah, that company's bankrupt." But anyway. So I do the bookings, we submit the bookings, we set up all the appearances, all the PR. But the difference with me was then I would actually go do it also. Like I'd go on those shows because now I'm also doing all the building settlements, all the payouts for cash and whatever. Whereas other office people would book the shows and then they were off for their day. I was doing everything. It was a 7 days a week grind for a while until somebody at the WWE office kind of saw it. They're like, wait, when does Lou get off? Like he's going like every second, and it was fine. I was very tired, but eventually I got to hire some people on the ECW team that could help on some other things. But the way that transcended was, you said like I guess May 2007, and it becomes that we were grinding phones to routing shows, making sure the brand's represented, doing cross promotions, doing all the media buying. Working with the promotions team that is primarily, all WWE people primarily focused on Raw and SmackDown, and getting them to pay attention to this little ECW brand and this little small budget. So you're putting those plans together and whatnot. And what it became a year later was that ECW was done. I was doing the fan access tours, where again, I was picking the cities that route to where WrestleMania would end. Working with a company to develop what that fan access tour would look like, and then going and executing those shows along with not shows, but events, doing all the talent appearances, bookings, requests. It's a lot. A lot goes into what happens when these things come together.
Yeah.
The day is it's a lot, and you're always on, which is one thing I like about the entertainment business anyway. It's always going. And it never stops. And when you have downtime, it's weird to have downtime, because there's usually something to do. So a day in the life was like that. I mean, sometimes I'd meet with Vince, show him like plans we were working on. That didn't happen until actually ECW was gone, which was good because I didn't want to be in those ECW meetings. It's just shit shows, but yeah.
Can imagine. Did Tommy ever confide in you about how things are going with that? I don't want to keep talking too much about the WWECW because it's heartbreaking for everybody, but did he ever confide in you about maybe being frustrated with this was what was promised and now it's just been taken?
Oh yeah, totally. I'm the one who told him that it was done, which was, I had gotten somebody tipped me off about it, and I forget who, but he was my buddy, and like we were in Wisconsin. We're doing a show at Racine, and I don't know if we were texting yet, but was that 2000? Yeah, I guess. Anyway, I said I need to come talk to you real quick. So I went to his room, and I was like, dude, I'm just letting you know, like, this is over soon. They're gonna nix the whole thing. And he was the only one I told, and he didn't tell anybody. And I told him because I didn't want him to read it on the dirt sheets, because I knew how stuff leaked. And I knew as soon as I was told, which was on a phone call with about 15 other people, that it was going to go somewhere. And sure enough, like the next morning, it was all over the place. So, but yeah, it sucked. But a lot of guys, for a lot of guys, it was bad. Some guys got, jobs, but
yeah. Wow. So before I get out of this little section here, I just want to ask, what was your favorite part of the job?
Entertaining people. That was, for WWF or ECW or any part of it, the impact you have on consumers it's pretty amazing. And I always go back, I forget who told me this story, but it's like, when you see a sign, and this isn't because I'm with Sign Guy Dudley, but when you see a sign in the crowd that's directed at you, that means somebody like woke up that morning and was like, I'm going to make a sign that says, I hate you, or I love you, or whatever. The point is, it's like you're affecting people's emotions and how they actually think and go about their day, that they take the half an hour it is to write out a sign, bring it to a show to express something. And I think, having that impact on people is huge. I think in different jobs, it's different things. And ECW is being with the boys and having that kind of brotherhood, and then having that effect on the crowd that they literally want to kill you. The WWF or WWE, where it's, you truly are entertaining people, and you're seeing the reactions of what it means for them to meet people, and be part of shows that you're instrumental in putting together. So I think that's, I think it's hard to describe, but that's how I see it.
Yep, cool, bro. What did you dislike most about the job working behind the scenes at WWE?
It's hard to navigate. I don't want to use the word politics, but there is a eggshell atmosphere, that you're walking on eggshells a lot, there's this kind of vibe that, you're always in trouble. And this is I left in 2010, so I don't know how it is now, but I did have a lot of anxiety sometimes over situations personally that were just like, you don't know what they're saying about you to you because you did X, Y, Z. And, I think when I was there wasn't enough of looking out for each other. Now, this is not in every area. I don't know how every department's run, but I do know there's a fear factor across areas that I don't know brings the best out in people, to be honest. If you're working in that kind of fear, I don't know if you're doing your best job, because you're more saying to yourself, what does XYZ person want to see versus what's best for the company?
Right. Yeah. I know there's a website. I think it's called like Glassdoor or something like that. It's a website you can go to put up your experience working for a company. And that's one thing when I looked at WWE, it was always the word eggshells was always like a key word. Eggshells,
it's true.
Eggshells and red tape.
Yeah, it's tough. It was tough to get things done, but I still think it's a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It would have to be. So why did you end up leaving?
I got Cirque du Soleil recruited me, asked me to come work for them in Las Vegas. It was more of a process than that, but that was the end result. And so, I was, and honestly, I was ready to go. I had done 4 years there, and it was for a marketing guy. That's a long time. And I was still living in Philadelphia. So I was working out of Connecticut 3 days a week. So I was going up there, staying in the hotel, still on the road, had a newborn, was kind of just like done with it. So Cirque came along, and we went through a whole recruiting process, whatever, but that's why I left, because I was given another opportunity with a new company.
Right, cool. So as far as Cirque du Soleil is concerned, tell me, what do you enjoy most about being part of such a very famous brand like theirs?
It's literally the same answer. It's putting smiles on people's faces and entertaining them. And we haven't been able to do that in over a year because of COVID. But it does give you time to like look back on, things you were a part of and will be part of again as the company relaunches, in that, sharing, knowing what you're promoting that's on stage is giving people these memories is pretty awesome. And because it's such a sustained brand, it's not like, flash in the pan,
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. There's a lot of brands that are just one-off brands, whatever, and this is not one of them. So I think that that's pretty amazing. It's been a pretty humbling experience. I mean, I've been there 11 years, so it's quite some time.
Definitely, bro. And I've
Yeah.
never been able to have the chance to see a Cirque du Soleil show, but hopefully when all this is over, I'll finally get the chance because it's
Well,
one
we
of
come to where you're at, so you have to let me know. But yeah, no, it's a worldwide brand that somehow got through this pandemic with a lot of good people looking out for it.
Cool, bro. So before we get to the final part here, one thing I said to Chubby, and he's not even chubby anymore, so he's kind of ruined
That's
the
true.
there. But one thing I thought would be a great idea, and I don't know if it's been brought up before to any of you guys that are part of the Dudley family, but I know that, when COVID's over, StarCast will come back at some point, or, some of these conventions. And I just think it would be such a great idea to do a Dudley family reunion where you get Dudley,
Yeah.
everyone comes and you have a big panel of guys and fans can ask questions. You got to have everyone though, that you possibly can to be a part of it. I just think a Dudley family reunion makes so much sense.
I would love it. I hope someone does it. I'm
So-
surprised it hasn't happened yet, to be honest.
So is Chubby, and so I'm
Very
pitched
surprised.
to him. I pitched it to Joel. I pitched it to you. I'm going to keep pitching it every time we get someone who's a part of it.
No, I would be so down for that. That'd be awesome.
That'll be cool. Maybe I'll tweet Conrad Thompson or something like that.
Do it.
Before I get to 5 Second Frenzy, Lou, is there anything that you want to plug? Podcasts, other interviews you've done recently, please. Anything that you want to share with the Louis Dangerously Sign Guy Dudley fans?
No, look, I mean, it's my Facebook. There's a Sign Guy Dudley Facebook page that I'm active on. That I try to talk with everybody. Like I said, I did a live Facebook Facebook Live with my daughter, she keeps asking me to do it again. So I do things like that. My wife and I do. We foster beagles for the Nevada Southern Beagle Rescue, and so I sell things on there that I give money to the Beagle Foundation as well. So that's my my plug. Right now I have 5 dogs in this house, of only which 3 are ours. So other than that, no, I mean, I'm active on all the social media handles, just under Lou D'Angeli.
Yep, cool. And we'll definitely put that in the description of where to find you and
Cool.
plug anything that you're doing in the description on YouTube. But Lou, at this time, it's one of my favorite parts of the show, but also a sad part of the show, because I know that my conversation with somebody that I, am a big fan of is coming to an end. But it's called 5 Second Frenzy. You have 5 seconds to answer each question, even if you break the 5 second rule. It's okay. You've had chair shots to the head from Balls Mahoney, so it's fine. So, Lou, first question for 5 Second Frenzy. Who is your favorite wrestler?
Roddy Piper.
Excellent. Same as Sean Oliver last night.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So the next question is usually a favorite opponent, but you never actually had a match. But who is someone that was your favorite, enemy to have in the wrestling business?
Axel and Balls were fun. The Gangsters were fun. The Eliminators were fun. If I have to settle in one, though, I will say shit. I'm actually trying to think who we had the most fun with. I'll go with Dreamer and Sandman, actually.
Cool, bro.
As the Dudleys. We would just laugh the whole time.
What's your favorite wrestling match of all time?
The I Quit match between Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA at Starcade.
Awesome. Great match. Great match.
Fucking unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite book?
To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee.
Very
Not the
nice.
answer you expected.
No, we get a lot of different ones. A lot of answers are the Bible, but
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
yeah, we
I've
get
not
that a
read the
lot.
Bible.
I've not either. But yeah, that and I think it doesn't matter. But that's a good answer. Favorite TV show?
Sopranos.
Oh, bro, love it. Love it.
Yeah.
I've got a Bada Bing shirt, and I got to see a couple of the guys do a live kind of spoken word show a couple of years ago. So, man, one of my favorite shows as
cool.
well. Favorite film?
Tough one. I'll go with Goodfellas.
Nice. Okay.
There's a lot of favorite films though. I almost said what genre because there's quite a lot, but I love Goodfellas.
Yeah, me too. Favorite musical artist?
That's impossible. Top 5 would be Guns N' Roses.
Yes.
Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Zeppelin. There's so many, but let's just say, we can go Guns N' Roses as one answer. With not just because I'm friends with Billy, but I love Smashing Pumpkins, I love Nirvana, love the White Stripes, I love Metallica. I like a lot of stuff, so that's a tough one.
Awesome, bro. That's the first time we've had Guns N' Roses on the show, and
nice.
Favorite band, 100%.
Nice. That's awesome.
Favorite food, Lou?
Sushi.
Nice. Favorite place to eat on the road?
Cracker Barrel.
Man, Sean Oliver said
trying
that.
to think, where did I travel? Perkins, Denny's, Cracker Barrel.
Sean Oliver said that one last night as well. We also get, we get Denny's a lot. We also get Waffle House as well.
That was awesome. I'll change my answer. They're only down south, man. If they had one up here, if they had one in Vegas, man, I think it would do gangbuster business.
Absolutely, man. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
I don't drink anymore. So, but prior to that, I liked what's it called? A Screwball. It's that peanut butter liquor.
Oh, really? That's an interesting one.
No, it was great. I also loved red wine and all kinds of stuff, but I retired, so
I like a bit of red. So
cheers to you.
Second last one, Lou. Favorite female body part?
The face.
Very nice. And the final one, Lou, is your favorite curse word.
Fuck.
It's the number one answer usually.
Yeah. That's funny. That's a good one.
Well, Lou, I just want to thank you for your time on the show here today. It means a lot to me. When I told CW and Billy that I was a massive fan of the New Dangerous Alliance, they were like, okay, so you're one of maybe about 3. No, I love what you guys did, man. I love what you guys did. And I was very entertained throughout. And I just wanted to say, from the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, you got a big fan of me right here, my friend.
Thank you. Let's take a selfie. That's my new thing, is taking pictures. You have to look at the camera though.
Like, I have to look at the camera.
There you go. Not a selfie. Yes. Yeah, no, a selfie. Yeah, so I can put it on my website and promote it. Look, thanks for having me. This was a fun interview. And I think you hyped yourself up pretty good in your emails, and you're like, I'm a boatload of fun. So
I'm glad you had fun, bro.
No, I appreciate the interaction. I appreciate the research you did too. That's evident. So thank you.
No, you're very welcome, bro. And again, I just want to thank you for your contributions to the wrestling business. I know sometimes it can be very thankless, and a lot of people say you can only count on one hand the amount of friends that you have in the business. But I would like to consider myself a friend of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, bud.
Thank you, Lou. And thank you to everyone out there for watching the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm Karlifornia Infirri alongside my new friend Louie Dangerously, and we will see you next time. Thank you.